You get things like, my boss doesn't give me feedback. It becomes, my boss doesn't care about me. Or things like, my boss never recognizes my work. What people are thinking is, I don't matter here anymore. So silence is not neutral. Silence is sending a message, and that's the important thing to realize. Hey everyone, welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I'm your host, John Espinosa. This is where I share my 20 years of leadership experience and, most of all, the things that I wish I would have done differently so you won't make the same mistakes that I have. A quick story here. A supervisor a few weeks ago stopped me and he had a team member. This was a solid performer. They were reliable. They'd been there for, I think, 4 to 5 years. And out of nowhere, the guy comes and puts in his 2 weeks. And the supervisor, it blindsided him. He pulled the gentleman aside and he goes, what happened? I thought things were going well. And what the employee said next is something that each one of you needs to hear. He said, things were going well. But in those 4 years or so, you never told me once that I hit every target, or you noticed that I stayed late when you needed me. I trained 3 new hires, I believe, and the only feedback that the individual got was from a system. It was a green check mark, a performance score, and the individual had no idea that their supervisor even noticed them. So when another manager asked this individual or really told him that she saw leadership potential, he took the job. And one of the things that I want to stress here, he didn't leave for more money. He didn't leave for a fancy title. He left because the human side, the words that she said to him were words that he never heard from his current leader. And here's the thing. The supervisor, he had all the data. The dashboard that, had performance on it showed that this individual was a top performer. But the dashboard never said, I see you. And time again, leaders are making these mistakes. We create these dashboards, but they can't say, I believe in you. They can't have those conversations that make people stay. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about those leadership conversations that AI will never have. The words only that you can say, the moments only you can create, and the conversations that if you skip them, you're going to lose your best people. So by the end of this episode, you're going to know the 5 conversations that every single one of you can't automate and why most leaders avoid them. And then I'm going to tell you exactly how to start having them this week. So let's get into it. Here's what we're going to cover today. 3 big ideas. These are going to change the way that you think about communication as a leader. So the first topic we're going to cover is why leaders outsource connection in the first place, and the real reasons why we avoid human conversations and what that costs us. The second thing are the 5 conversations that AI just simply can't have for us. It's those specific moments your team needs you to show up. And then we're going to leave with a practical script and a framework. So how to start, because many of you out there are like, I've tried this, John. Well, I'm going to give you some phrases to start having these conversations this week. So by the end of the episode, you're going to walk away with an understanding of why leaders default to dashboards instead of dialogue, and the 5 irreplaceable conversations your team is waiting for you to have, and then some word for word scripting. And that's going to help you start having them immediately. So the first thing, why do we outsource connection? And this comes from a lot of the feedback that I've gotten on interviewing frontline managers, interviewing managers of organizations. The technology has made avoidance easy. Think about it. Before we had any automation, before we had AI, we had to walk around and we had to talk to people. There was no other way to communicate. No IM. We had to communicate for feedback, recognition, or have those conversations around expectations. Now what we're seeing is there's systems for everything. There's automated performance tracking. We have digital recognition platforms. We even have AI-generated check-in prompts, right? So technology didn't create this avoidance, though. It enabled the avoidance that was already there. So let's talk about 4 reasons why I believe leaders avoid the human conversations. 1, this is the first one. I always hear this when I'm like, why can't you have one-on-one conversations with all of your direct reports? A lot of times, time. I don't have the time for all of these conversations, John. Well, here's the truth. You do have the time. It's just you're choosing not to spend it on where you need to spend it. The second piece that I always get is discomfort. I'm not good at that emotional stuff, right? The EQ. But what happens is that discomfort, it is an inability. It's just you're unfamiliar with having those types of conversations. Another reason that I get was this assumption. And when we assume, you know what happens. The employees know how I feel. They understand how I feel about them. I'm here to tell you, no, they don't. Unspoken appreciation, it's invisible. And then the last reason I get is delegation. Oh, don't worry, the system handles that now. Well, our systems are meant to deliver the data. We as leaders, we're meant to deliver the meaning. So there is a cost associated with this silence. And when we don't have conversations, people are going to fill that gap with assumptions. And I'm here to tell you, it's normally negative ones. It's not that you got a bunch of employees that are doomsdayers, but our brains automatically assume the worst. And that's a protection mechanism. You get things like, my boss doesn't give me feedback. It becomes, my boss doesn't care about me. Or things like, my boss never recognizes my work. What people are thinking is, I don't matter here anymore. So silence is not neutral. Silence is sending a message. And that's the important thing to realize. And what happens is we get so excited or really delusional about our dashboards. Many leaders believe that if data is visible, if people can see it, that's communication. They can see their scores, right? They know where they stand. Well, but the data that we're displaying without some type of dialogue is just numbers. It has no meaning, no context, and most importantly, no humanity. So your team doesn't want to read that they're doing well. They want to hear it, and they want to hear it from you. I coached a manager at a distribution center who they were proud of their hands-off style. And when we first started having the conversation, one of their first things they said to me, I don't micromanage. My team has access to all the metrics. They know exactly where they stand. And so I asked him, I said, when was the last time, though, you personally told someone on your team that they were doing a good job? And they really had to think about it. And in the end, they couldn't remember. So one thing that I followed up with was, you think you're being efficient, but your team, they see it as you being checked out. A month later, he had the conversations, and it saved a person, one of his employees, who was thinking about leaving. That's the value here. So some research that backs this up. A study from O.C. Tanner found that 79%, 79% of employees who quit their jobs cite that it's because of lack of appreciation. That is one of their key reasons for leaving. And employees, guess what? That receive regular verbal recognition, they're 5 times more likely not only to feel valued, but they're 4 times more likely to be engaged in the business. So here's the gut check for you. In the last 30 days, think back. How many conversations have you had with your team that weren't about tasks, not about deadlines or problems? If the number is lower than, I would say, 5 or 0, you're outsourcing your connection. And I guarantee you your team feels it. So what are the specific conversations that only we as leaders can have? Let's break them down. And I got 5. Today when I was journaling, these 5 conversations AI can't have for us, okay? So remember, the conversations around recognition. What exactly am I talking about? These are those specific personal acknowledgments of somebody's contribution to the organization. It's not good job, but here's what you did and here's why it mattered. AI can't do it. AI, it can trigger an automated kudos. It can send that reminder, but it can't make somebody feel like they're genuinely seen. See, recognition without relationship is just noise. People, they can sense when praise is auto-generated versus authentic. Now, this sounds something very simple, but I want to give you an example. An employee comes to you and you want to recognize them for something that they have done. It can be something as simple like, I wanted to tell you something. The way that you may have handled a certain situation, whatever that looks like, an issue, a challenge around a conversation, that was exceptional. You didn't just solve the problem, right? You turned that angry customer into a loyal one, and that's not an easy thing. I noticed it. It can be something very simple. And we make a mountain out of a molehill, but the key here is to be specific, to be personal, and then make sure to mention the impact that it made. So just a quick pause in our episode. This might be exactly what you need to hear. If you're currently leading a team or you want to lead a team and you're spending your days putting out fires, you're not failing, you're just stuck. Because when everything feels urgent, nothing actually improves. And over time, that starts to chip away at our confidence as a leader. I've led teams under pressure for years, and firefighting isn't about effort, it's about those missing leadership systems. When expectations are clear and ownership is real, our teams, they stop reacting and they start solving problems without us. So if you're ready to lead instead of react, click on the link below, book a call, check out our consulting programs. All right, back to the episode. So the second conversation that only you can have is that hard feedback conversation. And this is honest. This is a direct conversation about performance issues or maybe a behavior that needs to change. And things that are important here is that we deliver this conversation with care, not cruelty, but we have to deliver it. Okay? AI for us, it can flag all the metrics, but it can't sit down with somebody and explain what needs to change. Our automated systems, they can't read the room. They can't adjust the tone, or they can't offer the support that's needed. And when feedback occurs without that relationship, it begins to feel like we're judging them, not we're investing in them. So an example here is, hey, I just need to talk to you about something. I'm bringing up this because I'm invested in our relationship and more importantly, in your success. The last few weeks, I've noticed that something's been missing. You've been missing deadlines. You've been showing up late to meetings. And to be honest, that's just not like you. I want to understand what's going on. And I want to figure out how we can get things back on track together. The key here is that you're direct. Don't beat around the bush when you have these conversations. Stay curious and then make sure that they feel supportive. As long as we keep those three things, that type of conversation will go well. The third conversation that only we can have is that growth conversation. And this is something that probably one of my favorite conversations because I love discussing someone's future or potential development. And this shows them that we see them more than what they're functioning in their current role. It gives them a roadmap to success. And the reason AI can't do this is it can recommend maybe some training modules, but it can't see someone's potential. It can't guide them down that path. It can advocate, but we're the ones that have to champion for their growth. And then one of the most important things that I see is that when we develop without belief, it just feels like we're checking the box. There's a lot of automated systems out there that suggest training. And at the end of the year, what do? We go through the list and we just simply check a box. But we're not outlining that path for the employee or for our team member. So they don't see it as an investment. Something as simple as, hey, I've been thinking about what your future looks like here. I see leadership potential in you even, or I see management potential in you. You know, you've got the skills, you've got that good judgment, the clear decision making. I appreciate how you handle people, those challenging situations. It's noticeable. And let's talk about what growth could look like for you and how I can help you get there. So the key things there is vision. We've painted that vision for them. We've instilled belief, and then we've let them know that we're a partner in their journey. The fourth conversation, this is the something off, how I've labeled it when I was writing down my notes today, but the best words I could come up with, there's just something off. You just, in your gut, you feel like, man, there's something struggling. They show up a certain way, and then one day, things change. And so it's a check-in. It's a check-in when you sense that someone is struggling, and this needs to occur before it becomes a crisis. You know, noticing the people side behind the performance, again, goes a long way. And only we can do that as humans. AI, it can track maybe some declining metrics to bring to your awareness, but it can't sense when somebody begins to pull back emotionally. AI, it can't notice when someone's quiet in those meetings or maybe seems off. So when we provide care without presence, it just seems like we're, again, surveilling the situation. Like the partnership piece is crucial in this. And we have to have trust in order to move into this. So what does this sound like? A conversation could go something like, hey, I just wanted to check in with you. I've noticed you've seemed a little bit off lately. Maybe quieter than normal, whatever that looks like. I don't have any agenda here. I just want to see how you're really doing. Is everything okay? The key things in this conversation are observation, not having an agenda, and expressing genuine care. So you have to have a relationship there prior to going into this something off, or sometimes this conversation can feel like you're picking on them. The last conversation that I have written down is the difficult truth convo. So the difficult truth conversation, this is when we're delivering information or news that's hard to hear. And maybe there's changes to the organization. Maybe we got to let the individual go. So we know we're going to disappoint. Or the reality is that they are not performing to the level that we expected them to perform. So being the person who tells them what they need to hear, not just what they want to hear. And the reason AI is not a good source for this is it can send an automated email. Everybody can get a text or an email, but it can't hold space for somebody's reaction. It can't provide context, empathy, or a path forward. And the hard truth, without humanity, it just feels like we're abandoning that individual. So an example of this, and I recently had to have one of these conversations. I started out and I said, I need to share something. it's not going to be easy. We didn't get the budget, right, for the promotion that we had discussed in our initial performance conversation. It was something that I know you were looking or counting on. And I want you to know that this has nothing to do with your performance or the way that you show up. So let me explain what happened and what I see as our path forward. It was honest, I was empathetic, and I kept us forward looking. So those are the keys when we're having those types of conversations. And in the end, remember that employee from the warehouse, the one at the top of the supervisor, the warehouse employee that left the supervisor, he didn't feel valued. He wasn't asking for much. He didn't need a bonus. He didn't need that promotion. He didn't even need one of those conversations. He just needed to know that he was valued. And one moment where his supervisor looked him in the eye and said, "You know what, you're doing great. I see your potential with us, and I'm glad that you're on the team." That conversation, it never happened. So he found someone else that would have it with him. And it was that cost of silence, the cost of, I don't want to micromanage everybody, or I'm not a micromanager. That's what's at stake here. And what research says is, this is the Harvard Business Review. It shows that employees who have regular career development conversations, so for most organizations that I lead, it's at least 4 times a year. If those conversations are happening, employees are 3.5 more times likely to be engaged than those who don't. And 65% of employees, this is what the research says, that they want more feedback, but only about 1/3 say they actually receive it. 1/3. So think about your team right now. And for each person, which one of these 5 conversations is overdue? Is it recognition? Is it growth? Is it having that hard feedback? Write it down. That's your list for this week. So now that we've discussed the conversations, now let me give you a practical framework. This is where the rubber meets the road here. How are we going to start these conversations this week? So the first one, I'm just going to give an overview and then we'll dig into each one of these. So things like recognition. Hey, I wanted to tell you something that I noticed, as simple as opening up the conversation that way. Hard feedback. I need to talk to you. This is about something because I'm invested in you and I want to see you do well. Growth conversation. I've been thinking about your future here. Keep it simple, keep it dry. Something's off conversation. I've noticed you seem differently lately. And then the difficult truth, I need to share something that's hard. Keep it simple when you're having these types of conversations. So let's talk about a formula for recognition. This is a 5-minute recognition formula. Don't overthink recognition here. Use this structure. First, state what you observed. Make it specific to the behavior or the result. The second step, explain the impact. So why did it matter? And then third, express appreciation. Keep it simple and keep it sincere. Something as simple as, hey, I saw you handled that difficult client call yesterday. You stayed calm when they begin to escalate the conversation, and you turn the situation around. That kind of composure protects the whole entire team. I just wanted to say thank you. Clean, simple, specific. 30 seconds, no meeting required. So let's talk about a framework around having hard feedback conversations. This one, I got an acronym for you, SBI plus support. So when we have to have those hard feedback conversations, we have to state the situation. When and where did it happen? And a lot of times, bring in these, write them down. use them as examples. So situation for S. B is behavior. What did you specifically notice or observe? And then I is for impact. So what was the result? And then provide some type of support on how we can work together on this. So an example of this could be, in yesterday's meeting, state the situation. It was a team meeting, one-on-one. You interrupted your colleague twice. They were presenting on a certain topic. I noticed that it shut down the conversation around the table and they stopped contributing. So that's not like you. Can we talk about what's going on? Maybe you're having a bad day. I don't know, but I want to make sure that everyone feels supported and heard. Keep it simple: situation, behavior, impact, and then add that support onto the end. Don't overthink this. Keep it simple. The last one is the growth conversation template. So this is something, 3 questions here that I wrote down. And again, this is one of my favorite conversations to have, is where do you see yourself in the next 1 to 2 years? And you can frame that time frame depending on, how long that employee's been with your organization. I like 90 days. You can do 6 months. You can do 1 year. I normally don't go farther than 1 year, but again, depending on how long that employee's been in there, you can go out to 2 years. I wouldn't go longer than 2 years. So that's the first one. Where do you see yourself in the next 1 to 2 years? The second question with the growth conversation is, what skills do you want to develop? Or what certifications do you want to achieve? Or, what maybe knowledge do you want to gain? Okay, all of those apply here. And then how can I help you get there? Keep it simple, those 3 things. Where do you see yourself? What skills do you want to develop? And then how can I help you get there? And then what the kicker here is, the last one is follow up with some kind of belief, right? Your belief in them. Here's what I see in you that makes me think that you can get there. So these are just simple things that you can do that will acknowledge employees and really make them feel as if you're invested in them. So I have a challenge. Start this week. I want you to pick one conversation from the 5, just one. That's it. Think of one person who needs to hear it, and then schedule 10 minutes on your calendar. It can be a one-on-one, or it can just be a catch-up kind of conversation. Use the opening line from what we talked about earlier. So replay this episode, go back up, and then have the conversation today before next Friday. So you give yourself a week, all right? Remember, progress beats perfection here. So one conversation this week is going to be more valuable than if you have 5 conversations and you continue putting it off. So start this week. And if you're interested in more frameworks, click on the link below, sign up for our newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter. We send it out. It has a lot of valuable information in it and explains these frameworks that we deliver on the podcasts. So for the most part, research on this is all about habit formation. And a lot of studies have gone and shown that scheduling specific times for behaviors like having these conversations increases our follow-through by 91%. 91. A lot of times in our coaching sessions, there's a reason why I will schedule a follow-up meeting prior to us getting off the call, because we are more likely to have that meeting than if, I'll follow up with you in a couple weeks. It just never happens. Or things happen and people get busy, right? So leaders who use this structured feedback framework, any one of those that we've given, report 40% higher satisfaction with feedback conversations. And the source for this was Implementation Intentions Research. So a lot of this research is around how people shrink the start and begin. Don't overthink this. Your application here, your assignment is, before this episode ends, I want you to pick one conversation. One person, put a 10 to 15 minute block on your calendar for this week. Write down which type of conversation you're going to have, and then the opening line. That's it. That's the hardest part, is starting. Just start. So let's bring this home. What we've covered today, the first thing, leaders are outsourcing. We're outsourcing connection without even realizing it. Technology has made avoidance easier, but the cost is real. When we don't have conversations, people will fill that silence, that gap, with assumptions. When they leave looking for someone, they will leave. And they're looking for someone who will say the things that you didn't. The second thing that we talked about was the 5 conversations that AI will never have for you. So recognition, that hard feedback, the growth conversation, the something's off convo, and that difficult truth conversation. These are the moments that build loyalty. They're the moments that build trust and retention. If you skip them, you're going to lose your best people. And then last, you don't need to be naturally gifted at these conversations. You just need to follow the frameworks that we gave and make the decision to start. So use the scripts, take them, share them, right? Schedule the time and have one conversation this week. So here's what I want you to remember for this episode. If you didn't remember anything, 1, make sure, do me a favor, click on that subscribe button. It lets me know what you like hearing these types of things, and I promise I will continue to deliver. Do me a favor, click on that subscribe, share this content, and I will show up episode after episode. I promise. So if you won't say it, they're not going to be able to hear it. And they're going to leave looking for someone who will. Things like recognition, feedback, belief, truth, care. These aren't soft skills. There are survival skills. They're necessary skills that leaders must show. And no dashboards, no algorithms. There isn't any automated system that will ever deliver the way that you can. Our words have more weight. Our presence has power. And the conversations that we have around the ability to change, whether someone stays or goes, thrives or stagnates, believes in themselves or gives up, that's not something that we can automate. That's something that only you can do. So again, if this episode challenged you, here's what I want you to do. 1, share it with somebody. Share it with another leader who needs to hear it. Somebody maybe who's hiding behind dashboards. Someone who's avoiding that hard conversation. 2, subscribe. Hit that notification button. It's free. It's easy. It will do me a tremendous favor. And in return, I promise to deliver the episode just like we do. So this wraps up our series on how leaders should use AI without losing that human touch. But we're just getting started. More episodes are going to come, and more episodes around how you can continue to lead at the highest level. So drop a comment. Tell me, which one of the 5 conversations are you committing to have this week? And who are you going to have it with? Put it in writing. Accountability matters. Until next time, I believe in you. Go be great. Talk to you on the next episode. Bye-bye.